Okay, so are you ready to dive in? Because today we're tackling data quality specialists.
Definitely. It's a really interesting field, especially now. And all the material you've gathered from RoleCatcher is a great place to start.
Yeah, and RoleCatcher itself is pretty cool, helping people figure out their careers and all that. But we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, for sure.
But first, let's break down what a data quality specialist actually does, because these excerpts have definitely piqued my interest.
Yeah, it's some fascinating stuff. It seems like these days you almost need a data quality specialist if you're a company that wants to, well, actually use data.
Right. I even saw one excerpt that said, applying for jobs these days is like a lottery.
That's a great analogy
Yeah.
because it really highlights just how important data accuracy is becoming, especially in recruitment.
Oh, definitely.
Companies are using data for basically everything now.
Yeah.
Analyzing applications, assessing skills, even trying to predict how someone will perform if they hire them.
It's kind of wild when you think about it.
It is, and it's why a data quality specialist is so important. They make sure that all the data being fed into these processes is accurate and reliable so companies can make fair hiring decisions.
So they're like the guardians of good data, making sure no one is making decisions based on like a typo in a spreadsheet somewhere.
Exactly. Think about it. A company could accidentally overlook the perfect candidate because someone fat-fingered a comma in their resume.
Oh, that's got to be a terrible feeling for the poor candidate.
Or worse, they could use bad data to unfairly screen applicants out completely.
Yikes.
That's where the data quality specialist steps in. They're there to make sure the data is squeaky clean, accurate, and being used responsibly.
Okay, that makes sense. But what does that actually look like in their day-to-day?
Well, imagine a company has this massive database, right? Full of customer info.
Got it.
This database, it's used for everything. Marketing campaigns, product development, you name it.
High stakes.
And over time, that data, it can get messy. Duplicates, typos, missing info, even just inconsistent formatting.
Oh my gosh, my info is probably messed up in half the databases out there.
Exactly. And those little errors, they can have big consequences.
Totally.
So a data quality specialist, they might use different software to spot those duplicates or write algorithms that can flag inconsistencies.
Fancy.
Sometimes they even have to just roll up their sleeves and manually check data for accuracy. They're like data detectives, making sure everything is reliable and usable.
So it's not just about fixing the problems after the fact. It's also about putting things in place to stop those problems before they even happen.
You got it. A big part of what they do is develop and implement what's called data governance.
Data governance. Sounds kind of intimidating.
It's not as scary as it sounds. Basically, it's all the rules and processes that ensure data is being handled properly within a company.
Okay, so the data quality specialist helps create and then enforce these rules.
Exactly. That way, data is consistently collected, stored, and used across different departments.
So, kind of like the data police, but hopefully a bit less strict.
Laughs. Exactly. They're there to make sure everyone is on the same page about how data gets handled, which benefits everyone in the end.
This is already painting a much clearer picture of what a data quality specialist does, but what about all the advancements in technology? You mentioned AI and automation. How are those things changing the landscape for data quality specialists?
That's a great question, especially now when it seems like the amount of data out there grows exponentially every day. Companies are turning more and more to AI and automation to help wrangle it all.
Makes sense.
And data quality specialists, they're at the forefront of this change.
Oh, so they're not being replaced by AI, they're actually learning to use it to their advantage.
Exactly. Instead of manually hunting down typos, they might train an algorithm to do it for them.
Wow, so instead of being replaced by robots, they're like training the robots.
It's an evolving field for sure.
So to be successful these days, they need to be pretty tech savvy, understand how to work with these AI and automation tools.
For sure, yeah. But it's not just about technical skills. They also need to be able to understand the results these technologies give them and make judgment calls based on what they find.
They're like this blend of technical expertise and critical thinking, which is really interesting.
Right. They need to be able to understand the limitations of these technologies as well.
It sounds like this is a job that might appeal to people who like solving puzzles, people who like spotting patterns, maybe even a little bit of perfectionism when it comes to data. But is it the right career path for everyone? I mean, no job is perfect, right?
Definitely not. But there are some really enticing pros to being a data quality specialist, at least according to what we're seeing in these RoleCatcher excerpts.
Okay, so lay it on me. What are the upsides?
Well, for one, data quality specialists are in super high demand right now.
Okay, that's always a good sign.
It makes sense though, right? Companies are only getting more and more reliant on data, which means they need people who can keep all that data in tip-top shape.
So, good job security, competitive salaries, that kind of thing.
You got it. And since it's a growing field, there are lots of opportunities to move up the ladder, too.
Music to any job seeker's ears. But you mentioned no job is perfect. What about the downsides? We were talking about how technology is rapidly changing, and I feel like that could be a double-edged sword.
It's true. This is not a career where you can just coast by on what you learned in school. Things change fast.
Oh, definitely.
Data technologies, industry standards, even privacy regulations. It's constantly evolving.
So you always have to be learning, keeping your skills sharp.
Exactly. Data quality specialists, they need to be lifelong learners.
I can see how some people would find that exciting, though. Always being at the cutting edge, learning new things.
Absolutely. But for others, I could see it being a bit overwhelming.
For sure, it depends on your personality.
Right.
So for those who are up for the challenge, how does one actually become a data quality specialist? What should someone be studying in school?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, a bachelor's degree in a related field is usually the first step.
Okay, so what kind of fields are we talking about?
Things like computer science, statistics, information systems, anything that gives you a solid foundation in data analysis and management.
Makes sense. You got to know the basics before you can dive into the nitty-gritty of data quality.
Exactly. And speaking of getting into the nitty-gritty, having a few relevant certifications on your belt can really give you a leg up.
Oh, right. Your notes mentioned a couple of those. What were they again?
There are a bunch out there, but RoleCatcher highlighted a few specifically. The CDMP, or Certified Data Management Professional, the CDQP, which is the Certified Data Quality Professional.
So you can specialize even within data quality. That's interesting.
Yeah, there are even certifications for things like information systems auditing.
Wow, so many options. So let's say you've got the degree, you're working on some certifications. What else can you do to stand out? How do you show potential employers that you can actually walk the walk when it comes to data quality?
RoleCatcher had some great tips for this. They really hammered home the importance of building a strong portfolio.
Oh, okay. So not just saying you have skills, but actually showing them.
Exactly. Think about any data quality projects you've worked on, even if it was just for a class or an internship.
So if you came up with a new data validation process or found and fixed errors in a big data set, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Highlight those wins. Show them what you're capable of.
It's like they always say, show, don't tell. But for data, I love it.
And of course, networking is still super important.
Oh, definitely. You got to get your name out there.
Go to industry events, join some online forums, connect with people on LinkedIn. Those are all good ways to open doors and learn about opportunities.
Speaking of LinkedIn, that's where RoleCatcher is really changing the game. They have that cool feature where employers can find you based on your skills, right?
It's pretty awesome. It completely flips the script on traditional job hunting.
It's like having a dating profile, but for your career.
Laughs. That's a great way to put it.
You create this profile that shows off all your skills and experience, and then if you match what an employer is looking for, boom, they reach out to you. That's amazing. Talk about taking the pressure off the job seeker. Okay, so RoleCatcher is definitely a great resource for anyone considering this field, but they also broke down the different levels within a data quality specialist career, kind of like leveling up in a video game.
It is a bit like that. You start with the basics and then work your way up as you gain more experience.
So let's walk through those levels. What can someone expect at each stage of the career ladder? So where does a brand new data quality specialist start out? What's that entry-level position usually look like?
You'll usually find those entry-level roles are called data quality analyst. And at that level, you're really in the thick of it.
Okay, in the trenches with the data.
Exactly. You're reviewing data, making sure it's accurate, spotting any issues, and helping out with all those essential quality control tasks, really building that strong foundation.
Got it. So you're getting your hands dirty with the data itself.
Yes. And then as you gain experience and knowledge, you move up to being a data quality specialist.
Okay, so what changes at that level?
So now you're the one coming up with and managing the standards to prevent those errors from happening in the first place.
So you're not just putting up fires anymore, you're preventing them.
Right. You might be involved in things like streamlining how data is collected in the first place, or even recommending improvements to the entire data system.
You're like the data architect now.
Yes. And at this level, you start getting more involved with data privacy too.
Oh, right, because it's not just about the data being accurate, it's also about how it's used.
Exactly. You need to make sure it's being used ethically and responsibly too.
So you've mastered the fundamentals, you're shaping how the company uses data. What's the next step up?
Well, that would be the senior data quality specialist.
Ooh, senior. Sounds important. What all does that role entail?
This is where your leadership skills come in. You might be in charge of data quality improvement projects or developing data governance strategies for the whole company. You might even find yourself mentoring some of those junior specialists.
So you've become the go-to expert. Everyone's coming to you for guidance.
Exactly. You're not just doing the work anymore. You're guiding others and sharing what you've learned.
Okay, so what's the top rung on this ladder? Where do you go from there?
At the top of the mountain. That would be the data quality manager.
So this is the executive level, the big boss of all things data quality.
That's it. You've made it. In this role, you're responsible for setting the vision and strategy for data quality management across the entire organization.
Okay, so you're not just thinking about one department or one data set. It's big picture stuff now.
Right. You're creating the frameworks, policies, and procedures to make sure data quality is embedded in every part of the business.
Wow, you really are the champion for data quality at that point, making sure it's clean, accurate, and used ethically across the board.
That's the one.
Yeah.
And you're making sure the organization has the resources and tools they need to thrive in this increasingly data-driven world.
It sounds like a role with a lot of impact. So if anyone listening is feeling inspired, RoleCatcher seems like a good place to start exploring this career path.
Definitely. They've got some great resources, whether you need a career guide, some interview tips, or you want to try out that employer matching feature they were talking about. It's a great resource.
And with that, I think we've covered a lot of ground today on our deep dive into the world of data quality specialists.
We really dug deep today.
Hopefully anyone listening who is curious about this field now has a much better understanding of what it's all about.
I think so. We talked about what they do, the skills they need, how to break into the field, and even what it takes to climb that career ladder.
And probably the biggest takeaway, in a world where data is king, making sure that data is actually good data, well, that's more important now than ever.
Couldn't agree more.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and we'll see you on our next deep dive.